Welcome, everybody, to Broadcast Team Alpha, where we bring you cutting edge conversation while exploring the quantum possibilities. And we are flowing in the waves of possibilities tonight. I think you're really going to enjoy our special guest. But before we get started, I always want to open up with gratitude. I'm so grateful that you're here with us. So grateful for the chat room. So grateful for when you hit the super chat function. But mostly just grateful for your presence. I'm not sure what is even more powerful now than all of us coming together and being united in our presence. Maybe it's our presence of curiosity, presence of opening up to new beliefs, presence of suspending our disbelief, but whatever it is, thank you for being here. Thank you for being focused and as always, thank you for your love, because we love you too. Augie, you want to tell us about our guests, please?
Oh, absolutely. We have, we're going to enjoy this because we have Sheila Seppi with us. And for those of you that want to know how to get a hold of her right away, that's sheilaseppi.com. And Sheila has an out of the normal story to her life. Up to the age of 38, she did everything normal, went to school, go to college, worked, got married, had children, and then in 1999, her world was rocked. And she suddenly found there was another soul in that physical body. The new soul had switched places with the one who was there before. The new soul came in with memories and traits from her spiritual lineage of angelic, Pleiadian, Syrian, Arcturian, even Mantis, and Andromeda, multi-dimensional spiritual self. She suddenly found herself with new memories and knowledge and abilities she never had before. She became clairvoyant, clairaudient to hear messages from unseen sources and people and possibly entities around her, and also clairsentient to know about people's lives and their health. She also became a healer. She was almost instantly healed from having many illnesses all the way up to perfect health. Now she's an author, a speaker, a multi-dimensional life coach, a healer, and actually more like a regression healer and a therapist, and the founder of the Wish Alliance, that is WISH Alliance. If you Google that, you'll find that too. And also the Spirit Way Wellness and the Conscious Awakening series to bring speakers in to educate people. And it gets stranger. So let's hear it from Sheila. Welcome to the show, Sheila.
Hi, thanks for inviting me.
Welcome, Sheila.
So welcome.
So you want,
Yeah, how did, this must be sounding pretty strange to most people that you switched soul with someone, but how did you find out? How did this happen?
Well, I'll give you a little bit of backstory. In my 20s, 30s, and even into my late 30s, I was a very sick person. I had been diagnosed with bone cancer, brain tumors, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue. I had erythema nodosum. It all expanded over this 10, 15-year period. I used to even walk with a cane. I had migraines every day. And I was just a very sick person. And every year there was another illness that would just come on and compound things. And so I went to bed very, very sick. I was in a dysfunctional marriage. I had a very limited belief system. I did not believe in anything that was about to happen to me. But it seemed like what happened on September 23rd, on 1999, it felt as if someone reached down, grabbed me by the hair of the bed, pulled me bolt upright into the bed, and then it was like lightning ran through my body. Now, I don't know how long I was in this white space that overtook me, but I was there for some time. I know I felt comfortable. I was out of pain. It was very enjoyable experience. There wasn't anything scary. And then all of a sudden, it was like my peripheral vision started coming in, and then my frontal vision. And as I sat there in the bed, first I was just like, what the heck? Why am I sitting up in bed? That was the first thought that went through my mind. But as I looked around the room, everything was exactly the same as before, but everything felt different. There was something just not right. And as I looked around, it was almost as if I saw a piece of clothing there, it was like, oh, yes, I wore that piece of clothing last Tuesday. I had this meeting and and I would look at something else, and all this information started coming to me. And so I just kind of shook it off. I got out of bed. I was headed to the restroom, and I passed a mirror, and I caught my reflection, and I just stopped. And as I sat there looking at that mirror, it was like I was mesmerized, because I felt as if I was looking out of someone else's eyes. I knew it was me, but I didn't recognize me. I looked like me, but there was just something different. I could not put my finger on any of this. And as I walked around the house, it was like, oh my gosh, feel this carpet. Ooh, it's so soft. It's squishy. How fun. And I would smell things in the refrigerator, and I'd walk through the house. Really, I don't know how many hours I did this, and pick up objects and would look at them and turn them over. And I was just fascinated with absolutely everything I came in contact with. And when my husband came home and had the children, I started explaining what was going on. He actually did not give me my son. He wouldn't give him. And he just sort of like, well, there's something wrong with you. You need to, this is crazy talk, And so I tried to explain a couple more times, and I realized automatically, this is something that I don't talk about. And then I started being flooded with memories that I had no foundation for. I'd start remembering past lives. And I can tell you, when I went to bed that night before, I did not even believe in past lives. People had said, oh, have you read Shirley MacLaine's book, Out on a Limb? I'm like, nope, I don't want to hear anything about it. Past lives are a cop-out. Nope, I don't believe in it. And so I had such a limited belief system. Of course, now after reading her book, I thought it was absolutely phenomenal. So if you haven't read it, check it out. But then I started also being clairvoyant and clairaudient, and I would hear voices, and I would see people walking through the house that actually were not there. I started remembering like universal truths that I had no interest in, which I could talk about later. But then I started remembering healing modalities that I'd never studied, and I was never interested. I was like, very anal, tight-laced, limited thought systems. Everything was, just by the book. And I was not open to all these possibilities that were just flooding my mind as memories. And so my background was psychology, and I honestly thought I was having a psychotic break because all of these things were happening. Now, what I didn't know is at the time, I had also been healed of everything that was going on with me. And when I went back to the doctors, they couldn't find anything wrong with me. Absolutely nothing. And their excuse was, well, this is interesting. We just don't have an explanation. And I had documented, case after case after case where you have this. And I had an oncologist, and the oncologist happened actually a few years prior to that. And when they went in, they were going to remove my clavicle bone and replace it with hip bone. And when they went in, everything was totally gone. They had absolutely no explanation. The bone that had been shattered was healed. The cancer was gone. They didn't know what was going on. And this was even before the walk-in. And when the walk-in came, everything else went away. Everything. And so as I went throughout life for the first 3 months, I was just trying to figure things out. I was trying to understand how I could know things, because I also didn't believe in being clairvoyant or being a clairaudient, clairsentient. And when I would meet people, I would automatically know things about them. And so it was very, very strange. I had people, like my dad's sister had passed away and she came to see me. All of a sudden, it was kind of like I was this telephone for the other side. And all of these entities and people would start coming to me and wanting me to give messages, which just confirmed even more. Yes, I'm definitely having a psychotic break. So within 3 months, I had left the marriage. Within another 3 months, I had actually I accepted a position in another state. And as I went there, kind of researching the area, I picked up the phone book, and in the back was an ad for a spiritual counselor. And she had her PhD in psychology. And I said, man, this is exactly what I need. You know, I felt comfortable with that spirituality. I felt comfortable with, her credentials because I was in psychology, and I made my appointment. And, within a couple sessions, she had told me, she's like, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you, but you are what we call a walk-in. And when she said that, first thing, I was so angry because it's like, this makes no sense. I could not accept it. And the more she talked, even when I left, I heard what she said, but it was like, this just makes no sense to me, even though everything that she's telling me resonates true. And so by the time I had gotten to the car, I called her back and made another appointment, because I knew with every ounce of my being that that was true for me. And basically, a walk-in is when one soul leaves and another soul comes in. Now, what I found is the reason I had sat bolt right up in bed is when that new soul came in, it entered through the top of my head, and that energy propelled that other soul out. And I sat bolt right up in bed when that action occurred.
Did you ask for that on some level?
I didn't even know that was possible. Now, could I have asked for it on some level? Maybe so. I was a very, very sick person. Mm-hmm. I was in a high profile job. I was in a very dysfunctional marriage. I had a dysfunctional personality. Everything about me felt like it was kind of going down the toilet. Mm-hmm. And so there could have been this soul resonance, this soul crying out, because the strange thing was, before I came into the body, was in a collective. Now, when I say a collective, that means I was in more of my multidimensional self. All of us, whether we know it or not, whether we believe it or not, and believe me, I didn't believe it at first, but we all have other aspects of us that have had different lives and are having lives at this very moment. Now, that truth came to me, and that teaching came to me by my spirit guides, because about 4 to 5 years after I was in the body, I'd continued to work with my teacher. I knew I was a walk-in. The information was beginning to settle and to integrate, but I had a lot of healing that had to occur, not just physical healing, because all of the illnesses was gone, but I had to rebuild my health to kind of get it out of the trash. I had to, and everything about me changed when that walk-in came in. My personality changed, my habits changed, everything about me changed.
And that's kind of what I wanted to ask you. How were you tolerating your life? What was your demeanor? What was your affect? Were you angry, or were you just so sick you didn't have the energy to be angry? Were you depressed before it happened?
I was exhausted.
Exhausted.
I was exhausted beyond being exhausted. I would work and come home and just drop to the couch. And I, would have to force myself to help my kids with their homework, or force myself even to give them a bath at night. I can remember being so weary to the bone. And that when the walk-in came in, I had this newfound energy. I had this zest for life. I could get down on the floor and play with my kids. We could go out and do things. And that's the first thing that people started noticing about me. But one of the worst things, being a walk-in has been absolutely life-changing, the best thing that ever happened to me. But one thing that was not pleasant was I had a lack of memory. I did not really remember a lot of the old life. I didn't resonate with any of it. I did come in with an immediate love for my 3 children and for my parents and sister, and that was it. Any relationships with friends, the reality of it is I changed all of my friends, because no one could get me. They all thought that there was something wrong with me. And when I would try to talk to them, they were like, you can't go around talking like that. People are going to think that you've lost it.
Right.
And I'm like, well, I have lost it because this is what happened.
Yeah. You lost something.
I
lost it. I lost it on so many levels.
I did.
You have no idea. Yeah.
That's exactly right. And because I came in from this collective, I brought in all of this new knowledge that I was working to begin to integrate during those first few months, which really it was impossible. So I call it like little time capsules. For me, there was all this information. I was overwhelmed. I remembered everything. And then it was like, it started to shrink down, and it would be in these little time capsules. And as the body healed, and as I began to change the cellular imprinting of this body, because the new soul had its own imprinting, had its own memories. And as a human, each one of us, not only do we have our genetic imprinting, but we have our soul imprinting. And that's why we can resonate with so many different things. It could be, lineage coming in from our grandparents, and also our soul lineage coming in from who knows where. But all those changes began to take place in my body. And as that would begin to heal, then something new would open up that was inside of me. And it took maybe 5 to 10 years for that process to be complete.
So somebody or something at that higher level of existence, probably at the 7th dimension or so above you, when they sent you here or you went here, you were given the memory that was necessary at the time with your family and your occupation and things like that. Anything that wasn't important was just kind of excluded, was it?
Exactly. And the sad thing is that was about 98% of my life,
Wow.
Because I was not on a spiritual path. I was not spiritually awakened. If anyone even started talking to me about those things, I was just like, just totally disinterested, because it did not resonate with where that soul level was at the time. But when I came in from the collective, one of the things that I've learned since then, and working with Barbara Lamb with past life regression, or not actually, well, I guess you'd say past life, but it's just plain regression. When I was in that collective, part of the aspect that was very necessary for this life were the traits of the Arcturians, and for the healing aspects, for the spirituality aspects, and also for that, let's just get it done. Let's move forward, let's go. And the soul before was actually Arcturian that was in this body, but totally had lost its way, totally lost its way. So part of the energy of that soul had laid this energetic neurological framework within this body. So when the new soul came in, it didn't fry the circuits. And so that's how things could instantaneously heal. And then as the body would heal, more information and more of my higher essences could continue to flow in.
Yeah. I
Did
can
your
kind of, yeah,
there's
go
a
ahead.
question. There's a question from the chat room. Did your physical appearance change at all, Sheila?
Yeah, it really did. My hair used to be super, super, dark. And then it started getting lighter. And then, of course, now it's really getting lighter with all my highlights gray, which I love. But my eyes were almost like this greenish blue. And when I first came in, my eyes were totally blue. Wow. And after about 5 to 6 years, the green started slowly coming back in. And now they're green again.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so one of the other things that happened is if you look at a photo of me then and you look at a photo of me now, it's almost like I'm younger. I have more energy. You can just see it. It's like maybe we were cousins, or maybe we were, sisters. But
well, I can imagine how many of us have our hand up now, like, okay, me, I want to walk in, please.
Now let me tell you, so many people have told me, oh, I really want to walk in, you got to shortcut all of this stuff. But the reality of it is you cannot ask for a soul exchange. You cannot. Exactly. That will not happen. What could happen, however, is that you have more of your higher self to come in, like what I'm having, now in different periods of my life. I have more of my own self coming in from my Shantiya Khan or my, individual higher self essence that comes in and floods my body. People can ask for that. And I believe that right now on this planet, that's happening with a lot of people. I think more and more people are waking up. They're having these memories from, being on the other side or from being on a different planet. Yeah. And I think a lot of that comes because more of their own higher essence, but that soul has not left. Mm-hmm. Now, in my case, the soul left. Something else interesting that happened is my son, when he was 7 years old, also became a walk-in. And I've never heard of anyone else. And I've interviewed tons of people, even the people that I interviewed for my book, Walk-ins, Cosmology of the Soul. I interviewed my son, and his story is in there. But it's very unique to have two walk-ins in the same family. But what happened with him is I believe he actually died because he had peritonitis from an undiagnosed ruptured appendix. It was asymptomatic, and the doctors all thought that he had the flu that was going around. His appendix had actually grown back into his intestines. And when it ruptured, it was cushioned. And so when they were doing the poking and prodding test, nothing, was responding as if he had, appendicitis. And so he did have to undergo exploratory surgery. They weren't sure if he had, something wrong with the bowels, if they'd ruptured or what was going on. But I believe that it was during that time that his soul came in. And prior to him going into the surgery, I heard, and my husband heard, and we both looked at each other, our mouths dropped open. And we heard this booming male voice coming out of his little tiny, frail body. And now I know that the language that he was speaking was some type of an angelic form, Sumerian language, something like that, that was mixed in. But everything inside of me, as he was speaking this, knew it was his soul crying out to be released.
Was
And
it like light? Was it like light language, Sheila?
It was not like no, it was not light language. It was I've heard a lot of light language, and sometimes I'll speak light language, but it was not like light language.
Mm-hmm.
It was something totally different. And
it was a language that you understood.
My soul understood, yes, because my mind had no connection, had never studied different languages at all. But I knew, and I was so afraid that he was going to die after that happened. But for him, when he came out, now, granted, he's only 7 years old and his personality is still changing, but he was very, very different. He had severe ADHD before, totally gone. He became very clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient to where he is even today. As he's grown up, he works with me in our office, Spirit Way Wellness, and he's a medical medium. He can look into someone's body, he can touch them and know. And so it's really, interesting. But for him, he's a soul infusion, because portion of his soul stayed, and angelic energy came in and bonded with his soul. And he has memories of actually being an angelic being, but he doesn't describe the angelics that he was part of, like, with the flowy gowns and the wings. He said things were very metallic, that there were beings where he was that had triangle heads. And he remembers prior to incarnating that they kind of lifted him up and they laid him in like he said, it was this swirling, he said, like a golden soup is all he could think. And then he could feel himself becoming part of that golden soup. And then the next thing he knew, he woke up in the body. And he thought when he stood up, he couldn't use his legs. He had no use of his arms or anything. And he thought it was because of the anesthesia. And we were talking with him and saying, the feeling will come back. We were hoping. He did learn to rewalk, but when he first came in, he didn't even have the knowledge of how to walk.
Sheila, as a nurse, I tend to agree with you. I think that he did die. There's so many times in the operating room where the person will pause, and everybody's like, uh-oh, start getting emergency medicines out. I really have the feeling that that's true. I'm in agreement with you. That's amazing. I mean, it's so beautiful and so right on time, right?
Yes. And,
And speaking of time, actually, we got about 2 more minutes here and we got to run a little advertisement. But when we get back, I really want to talk about something that I've been thinking about that as you have been talking, because first of all, why now? Why you? And maybe there is a reason here that could maybe come to the surface, and that these are very critical times right now. The previous soul of you was not doing maybe what that soul came here to do.
Yes.
So it was encouraged to possibly set up a situation where it wanted to leave voluntary so that a new one could come in and do the work that you originally had intended to do. Could that be something like it?
Yes. Yes. There's lots of possibilities, and that is definitely one. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I see that the world, I don't know about the world is full of walk-ins, but there is a lot of you out there.
Yes.
And some people, some of them may not even know it. They think, gosh, I had a really strange things happening lately, and maybe I'm not, they just don't realize what have happened.
Well, when we come back from the break, I can talk to you about where I was previously and the work that I was doing it was actually here on the planet.
Wow.
Yeah, that we want to hear about. Your memories of, maybe also the memories of other worlds. Folks listening, don't go anywhere. In the old days, I would say, don't touch the dial, but we'll be here right after the break. So, Mac, let's run that and let us know when we are live again, because I can't see it.
I knew that there was a need because my father had a need. And if my father had a need, then how many other people have a need?
The key to Tyler's coffee is the roasting process. Because Mother Nature makes the coffee bean. We can only work with the processing.
We knew we wanted to go USDA certified organic. We wanted to be the purest and cleanest coffee in the world. We had to source stuff from Africa, we had to source stuff from Brazil, we had to source stuff from Chile, and we put it through our proprietary Z-roasting processor. So what that really truly means to you is that the coffee doesn't have inflammatory properties in it. I'm dedicated to serving 50 million Americans that suffer from stomach-related modalities, and also the millions of other people that just deserve a great tasting cup of coffee that's healthy and safe.
Okay, so we are back. And for those of you that joined us a little bit late into the show, we are talking with Sheila Seppi. She is a walk-in. Her present soul came in and swapped with another soul. And boy, there's some stories behind this one. And of course, if you watched all of that little commercial, now you know why you need to drink more coffee. It's good coffee, good for you. And we were talking before the break also, why you and why now? And also some of your memories that you had from before may explain some of that. I don't know. Would you comment on that?
Sure. So let me start by saying, prior to my incarnating, I was in a collective group of beings, me in all of my multidimensional aspects of Palladian, Assyrian, I was Arcturian, Mantis, Andromenon. We worked within the Christic energy, and we had melded with other individuals to make as like a single being that was spread out, that came down to the earth, and we were working within the earth's crystalline grid. Now, the earth's crystalline grid is on an etheric basis, but it spreads all over the planet. And when something changes within this grid system, it affects all of the other dimensions and all the other densities that are involved with this planet. And so when you tweak something here, you have to tweak something there. And it's almost like this never-ending process, because every human on this planet is involved with this collective consciousness. And that collective consciousness affects the vibratory field of the crystalline grid. And so it's always changing. And there were beings from everywhere coming to assist the planet. Now, beings from another planet cannot come here and directly influence and say, this is what you really need to do. This is who we are. This is how we operate. And this is a roadmap. Here's the manual for you to follow. They cannot do that. But what they can do is send individuals, souls, into human bodies to help people wake up. They can send people into this collective that works on this crystalline grid to send a different higher vibratory frequency that helps to shift the planet from 3D consciousness to 5D consciousness. And that 5D consciousness is what so many people hear about, the ascension or the event. You know, there are religions all across the world that refer to this particular time in history. You know, everything from the Kali Yugas to the Revelations to you name it. People have identified this time in history. And so we had come in to assist with this transitionary period. Now, the soul, I cannot speak for what this soul did or did not ask for, but I know that within that collective, there was a cry that came up from this soul, and it was decided by the collective that I would be the aspect that came in. Now, when I say the aspect, our oversouls are so large in and of themselves. Let's not even, forget the collective for a minute, but our oversouls are so large. They're like what you would think of as a cloud storage, because it holds all of the thoughts, all of the memories, all of the experience, every choice that could ever be made for us, even in the etheric levels of the oversoul. It's all there. And so when you incarnate, what I remember the oversoul as being is a very misty-like existence. And if I wanted to raise my arm, obviously I wouldn't have an arm there, but I would know what it's like to raise my arm, and there would be something that occurred, and it would be like little twinkling lights, and almost like this, I can't even, but there's this whooshing kind of sound that would occur with a thought movement. And I would know what it's like to be the arm. I'd know what it's like to be the bone inside the arm. I know what it's like to be the blood flowing through the arm, the veins of the arm, the skin of the arm. I would know everything there is to know about it without actually having that physical form. And so when we incarnate, we have this explosion of senses. And so when I incarnated, it was like, I would have been the kid always getting their hands slapped, because I was touching everything. I was feeling, and I'm still that way to this day. I just love to touch and to feel everything. But I was in that space prior to incarnating. So the aspect that came in was in resonance with the old soul that left when that old soul was in its more pure form. Now, I have an understanding of how the oversoul works. And so for me, the reason that this aspect was selected is because it had enough of a similar resonance that I could come into the body without kind of overloading its systems, because I am a way future aspect of what this other soul could have become in the future, yet never having lived this experience. So when I came in, all of those memories that did not serve this soul, because I had never lived that, just kind of left. And that's why I was I just wasn't connected with people. That's why I had all of these new memories, because these are my memories. And those old memories have gone away.
Yeah. Now, but for the new soul, remembering where you came from, were there also remembrance of previous life existences at that time that you have?
I have memories of being on different types of planets. Could I say this was the Arcturian planet, and this is a Palladian planet, and this is the Mantis planet? I couldn't say that for sure. What I do remember is being on a planet that's not nearly as colorful, that doesn't have nearly the vegetation, but it has in the sky, it has 2 to 3 different planets that you can see. I remember having families from being an Arcturian. I had 3 children. I have the oldest is about 500 years old, and his name is Kunta. And he is, I guess you say, like an engineer. He is a builder of light bridges. And then also within the Arcturian family, there was the middle son named Na'a, who is about 300 years old. And he is I guess you would say a ambassador, because he travels to different planets and he makes negotiations with them. And then my youngest, which has this little sweet spot in my heart, and she is a scientist, and her name is Kita, and she works with the plant people. And I say plant people because they have their soul, they have a resonance, they have their own frequencies, and they would tell her about their healing powers. And then she shares that with the other Arcturians. She shares that with, like in conferences, and she shares it with other planets, but she's also an artist. And so she develops like this holographic art. I remember being on a ship with them when they were very, very young. I remember traveling. Most of my experiences are memories of different types of ships. Then after this body was birthed, those are the only 3 children that I remember from an existence and remember kind of growing up. They will appear to me here in my office a lot of times. And I know that they're there. I can feel their hands on me. And sometimes I can kind of catch like a glimpse of them out of my eyes. And with the Arcturians, they have given me different healing abilities. So spiritual abilities came in, but also different healing abilities. And I have a white light when I'm working and healing. There's a white light that comes in through the top of my head, down to my heart, branches out and comes out my hand, kind of like laser. And it has a blue, it's like an electric blue light around it. And the work that we do is we move muscle, bone, tissue, fiber, put everything back into alignment. And sometimes it's not very pleasant, because what we do, a lot of times surgeons have to do, and we can get in there and we can break up scar tissue and banding and crystalline and arthritis, all that kind of stuff. And it can be painful. But when I evoke that light, there's like a sedative effect. One of the other things I remember is a planet where people, they're very tall, very silver, kind of like beings,
Yes.
kind of light being-ish, if you will. They have clothing on, but it's more like silver. It's part of them. It kind of flows. They don't really walk with legs. It's kind of like they sort of float along. I have memories like that, but I can't say, oh, that's from the second moon, blah, blah, blah. Again, I have been told that I have a lot more information coming, and I'm hoping I'm going to receive more clarity. I remember being part of the Christic energy, the Christ energy, and I remember what that feels like. That is not a planet. That was not a being. It was a frequency. And I can still remember what it's like to be part of that frequency and that ebb and that flow. There's a gracefulness. And, when I think about it, I almost want to cry, because I'm overwhelmed with like love, and the beauty, the unconditionalness of it all. And then I have, did you want to ask a question?
Oh, I was just wondering. Continue, and then I got a question.
Okay. And then I have 2 children that are mantis, and they were from this body. They were hybridized from this body before the walk-in came. And the oldest one is called Sina, and she has come to me in meditations. And she has done some work with me. She's placed Merkabas in my body. She has done physical healing work on my body. And then the youngest is Iona. And Iona will travel with me at night when we astral travel out of our body, which everybody does, whether you remember it or not. But when we travel and work in the interdimensions, so we work in that space between dimensions, and there's just as much going on there as there are in regular dimensions. And it's different work than working on the crystalline grid. That energy is, it's like cotton candy. It's soft, but there's this gooiness to it, not sticky. It's a gooiness to it. Mm-hmm. And then after the walk-in, when I was 40, I had eggs harvested again, which yielded 7 Zeta children. And all of a sudden I started feeling, I just felt bloated. I felt horrible. And I went to my doctor and to the OB, and he said, this is the weirdest thing. He goes, it's like you don't even have ovaries anymore. They have shrunk and they look like raisins. And just a couple months ago, they were just regular ovaries. And so obviously I went through the change of life right after I came in, as a walk-in to this body. There were so many changes that occurred. And so then I have those 7 children, and the oldest acts as a, I don't know, it's like they are all a collective and they speak through her.
Now, when you came in here, you came in for a purpose.
Yes.
You remember exactly what that purpose was?
I was told I was to be a way shower. I was to help get people ready for the ascension. Mm-hmm. And I have, worked to do that. Every now and then they would come to me and they're like, you got to go bigger. You got to go bigger. You got to go bigger. And to the point that one time, not only was I working 40 hours a week, I was teaching every night. I was teaching workshops on the weekends, and they told me again, I had to go bigger. And it's like, I can't do anything else. You are going to have to show me. And they did. They began to show me what I needed to do. And they showed me bringing in other speakers. And I did that for a while. And then they kept saying, go bigger. So my speaking events would get bigger, and they would get bigger, and they would get bigger. And finally, during one of those events, that was in June, they told me I had to go bigger again. And I just about broke down, because in April of that year, obviously, I had a physical breakdown, and literally my liver had shut down, and my enzymes were like 2,360. They sent me to Denver. They were going to get a flight for life. And my husband's like, I can make it. Yeah. So we, we're flying. I, in the meantime, have gotten a hold of my teacher in Germany with some of the energy work that I do. And he began to rebuild my liver. My liver had shut down. My kidneys were shutting down. My spleen was shutting down. By the time I got to the hospital and I walked in, and I'm like, is this the floor I'm supposed to be on? They're like, oh my God, you can't be walking. You got to be in a wheelchair. Oh my God. Oh my God. And I feel like maybe they sent me there because first off, they thought there was better medical treatment, but I was dying. But I felt fine, and I knew I wasn't going to die, but there was this physical thing that was going on with me. Mm-hmm. And so during that time, I had the luxury of not working like a mad woman, and I was at home, and I was talking to Barbara on the phone, and she goes, did you ever think that maybe they're wanting you to get your book out? They want you to tell your story.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I don't want to do anything. I'm not working. I'm kicked back. I'm recovering. And I really did have to recover because I was very weak, but I felt great. And I had this, it was like, as weak as I was, I had this newfound, It wasn't like joy, and it wasn't like hope, but it was this new energy that was running through me. And so
Anticipation. Yeah, maybe that's it.
Yeah, I started thinking about writing the book. And then in June, I showed the book to my friend Andrea, and she's like, oh my God, you've got to write this book. And so then by September, then my guides once more said, go bigger. And they actually came out loud in an audible voice and said, get the book written. And so I did. I wrote the book, and from September until April, the book was finished. And then it was fine tuning, and it sent out to press in June. And after the book, all of a sudden, all of these people started writing to me, and they started calling, and I just had this I was overcome with this sense that we have to have a conference of all of the people that were in the book, because all of a sudden we all became really good friends. And I interviewed a plethora of people, but for the book, there was like 15 people. And then there were 8 other individuals in the field of science and consciousness. So after we all got together and said, yeah, let's do this conference, that was in January. And after January, I was inundated and flooded. People are like, oh my gosh, I've had this experience and that experience. And this, finally, I'm hearing someone speak my language. And I decided right then, there was no way that I could call everybody back that needed to be called. So what I did is form this organization called the Wish Alliance. And every Thursday night, we have meetings. And we have guest speakers, but also once a month, we have what's called family reunion. And that's where everybody can come. Everybody can share their story. And from that, the Wish Alliance came in. Please check out the website, wishalliance.org. You can go on and sign up. We'll put you on the mailing list. You'll learn about everything there is. We have probably 150 individuals that are offering their services that you can get a hold of. So if you're having an experience and you think it's a paranormal experience, we've got experts to take care of it. And this is a highly vetted organization. So, there are some people that we have not, that have not really kind of met the criteria. And so we have people have been in the field for years that are very credible individuals that can help you if you're having an experience, if you want to know about DNA, if you want to know about light language, if you want to know about animal communication, if you want to know about star beads, you can go to that website and find it. And ever since I put that website up, now I have more of a direction, and they will say, okay, this is what you're doing next. They're not telling me to go bigger, thank God. They're telling me to do other things, because now I guess they realize, she just needs a little more help than we thought. So they're giving me some verbal cues.
But speak a little bit also about, that book that you talked about. Imagine a lot of your experiences and also the help that people can find is in that book.
Yes. And I talk about the different types of walk-ins that there are, because not everyone is a soul exchange walk-in. Like my son is what you call a soul infusion. And that's where part of his angelic self came in, but also part of that old soul left. So the two souls melded to become one soul. And then there's what's called a overlay. And that's where the original soul stays, and another soul comes in to help that soul. This soul can either leave and have healing done or whatever and come back. So the overlay serves as a placeholder, but while they're together, it's like a neoprene suit and it just fits really tightly. And most of the time it comes in and it will supercharge the soul to give it more life force, more energy, more information. So it infuses it with energy, but then the overlay leaves. And then sometimes you have two souls in there at a time, and that's called the braided soul. And they literally braid upon each other. And that soul will eventually leave. Then you have what's called a jumper. And a jumper can come in and out very quickly. It might be there for a couple hours, a couple minutes, a couple days. This is an agreement that was made so that these souls can experience. So the physical form has the soul, but that soul has agreed that these other beings can come in to have these experiences, or maybe to serve as a muse during a certain period of time. And then you have what's called the soul layering. And that's when you have multiple aspects of the soul that come in, and they're layered one on top of the other. And at certain periods of time, something will happen to activate a certain soul, but it doesn't leave, it stays. But you could have multiple aspects because they're all from the same oversoul. Now, sometimes you have souls that are from a different oversoul, and they will come in and they will inhabit a body through one of these various experiences. But I have interviews, I have 15 different stories from other walk-ins. And so if people think they might be a walk-in, there's also in the appendix, there is a questionnaire that will ask you, different questions to help you determine if you're a walk-in. And those were gained from not just myself, but from other individuals that were interviewed that are in the book. And so these 15 different people have so many different experiences that's taken place that maybe something will resonate with somebody out there. And then we have people like Mary Rodwell, who has a vast experience that we ask her opinion. What do you think about walk-ins? And we have so many people, but if people are interested, it's in paperback, it's also in audiobook, and it's in a Kindle form. So you can find that on Amazon. And if you've got questions, just let me know. And I'm really happy. And it might take me a little longer. I used to say, I will get back with you in just a day or two. And now it's like, I will get back with you, but it might be a little bit longer.
That's good. Well, that's all right. And speaking of souls and memories and knowledge, are we going to win the fight that we are in right now?
We absolutely are. It's already happened. It's already happened, but it's all, it's a frequency, and everything has to happen in its own time. And with the way that we're going to defeat the evil is not fighting with evil, but by loving and extending love and forgiving each other and walking through forgiveness and being grateful, just like Nori started, just be grateful for everything that you have. I know this morning I went outside, and I live in Leadville, and it's 10,200 feet up, and we have mountains everywhere, and they already had snow. And so I'm walking out, and I'm like, I'm so grateful I have eyes to see this. And I'm so grateful that I have ears that I can hear the river rushing. And I'm so grateful that I feel the cold air, and I know I'm alive. And everybody has something to be grateful for. Even if you're in the crappiest situation, you have fingers that move. You have a brain that can think. And that's huge.
Yep. Absolutely. Wow. This has been quite a journey with you.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah. It has been. And it's like, just when I think, I can kind of rest a little bit, it's like, something new happens, or they send more information, or they tell me something different, and I get all excited again. I've been super excited ever since I got here, like 22, going on 23 years now. And it's just, it's just one amazing experience after the other. And then I meet great people like you guys. And then I can talk and I can tell people what I'm experiencing to help them. So, maybe I'm saying something that they can resonate with, and bam, they wake up. Or just by hearing their vibration raises, and then they're in They go to a party and maybe they're not talking about spirituality, but just by being there, their vibration is helping to raise the vibration of those people they're around, and they're planting little bitty seeds inside of their etheric bodies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is the easiest way to get a hold of you?
People can go to my website at SheilaSeppi.com, or they can email me at Sheila@SheilaSeppi.com, SHEILA@SHEILASEPPI.com, or go to the Wish Alliance and you can put your comments there, because in the contact section, because I'll read all of that information. But please check out the Wish Alliance, because there are so many people just waiting there to help. If people have questions, you have a plethora of individuals, not just me. I realized that one of the things in the Go Bigger was I didn't have to do it all. So, I can do a lot of the stuff that these other people are doing, but I don't have to, because there are literally expert after expert after expert in their field just waiting to help.
So great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Wonderful.
Sheila, you have to come back, please, and visit with us again.
I would love to, because I didn't even get into talking about the oversoul structures. And please let me remind everybody, please sign up. We have at the end of the month on October 30th and 31st, the Starseed Conference. Now it's called the Starseed Summit. It's the first of its kind with Portal to Ascension. And we have all kinds of individuals who are coming to share their stories. Some people are hybrid individuals. Some people literally remember coming straight off the planet. One guy, Mark, he has absolutely no veil of forgetfulness. He remembers everything, because when each of us incarnate, we have that veil that keeps us from remembering what was happening in other lifetimes, because otherwise we'd be sitting around, oh my gosh, I remember when, and I need to go find so-and-so, and oh my gosh, and we wouldn't be focusing on the here and the now and the present, because our sole purpose is to wake up and to help move this planet into that fifth dimension, into that new earth. And it takes all of us to do that.
Yeah. Wonderful. Okay. Well, we are down to the end of the show here. So we will definitely try to get you back, and give it at least a month, and we'll give you a call.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you so very much. I'm
Thank
really
you.
appreciative. Thank you. Thank you.
And we are friends on Facebook and places also. So all the information that you have, put it on our pages, and we will help you spread the word.
Oh, thank you so much. I feel very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And then we will see you next week.
Thanks.